Special meeting of the South Padre Fire District Board of Directors.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's where they were. Here. Welcome, everybody. This time we'll open for public comment on anything that is not on tonight's agenda. So if anybody from the public has anything to speak on. Okay. Are we going to speak? Close public comment. Consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody wants to pull or questions on the consent agenda from the board? Questions from the public?
I'll move consent agenda as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Old business, South Padre Fire District policy updates.
This is the second reading and the adoption of two policies you saw last month: controlled substance accountability and leave behind Narcan. That's really all I have to say.
Questions from the board on either of these policies? Questions from the public? Motion to approve those two policies.
I'll approve the two policies as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Appointment of new member to the Loomis Citizens Oversight Committee.
This has been a few months now in the works. The district needs a new member of the Benefit Assessment Oversight Committee since the appointment of Director Wingshausen to the board. Staff, a few of the board of directors and a current member interviewed a number of candidates for the open position. I'll allow directors Gibson or Wingshausen to speak as to what the selection process was and make the recommendation to the board.
Well, we had three candidates and we interviewed each one of them. There was another member of the committee there and the two of us. And we came to a conclusion about that. Do you want me to go with that too? So we went back and we looked at what the requirements were for the committee and the committee composition. And we felt that we had two candidates and we really struggled because we felt really good about two of the candidates. And so that's what prompted us to go back and look at the requirements under committee composition. And we decided that it would be good to add both of them. So one candidate has a long history in the community of being very, very active. And I didn't know you were going to ask me to do this. So I'm on the spot here. And the other one is also has a long history with Loomis, but because of his age, a little bit more limited experience. And we just thought that that was a great mix of institutional knowledge, but yet bringing somebody up behind so that as some of us age out, that we're creating some institutionalized succession planning, if you will. And so
the two people that they would like to nominate are Russ Kelly, Brian DeMartini. So they'd like to add an extra person, so it would be a 6-member board or committee, I guess, technically. And so that is what's being asked of the board, is to make that the two members of the committee.
What are the ramifications of having 6 in a voting situation?
I'll go back to Director Wingshausen as because we discussed this at length, and I'll let you answer.
the committee is it's an oversight committee. So it doesn't make policy decisions. Really the purpose of the committee is to ensure that the district is handling the money from the assessment in accordance with what was approved on the ballot by the voters. So I cannot, I have been on the committee since its inception. I can't recall a time where there's not really even an issue. Either you're going to decide that the district's in compliance or not. And, you know, questions might be asked, but usually they're just remedied by getting answers. So I don't see a big issue with that. And probably the worst case scenario is that the advice of the committee comes to this board, can't really take action to do anything. You know, they're not responsible for policy. So what might happen is that a split decision would come to the board. The main thing that they do is tell the board, yep, everything looks like it's in compliance with the ballot measure. So you could have a situation where three say yes and three say no, and then it would be up to this board to take whatever action they think is appropriate. So I don't see it being I don't see any significant
They don't give them
potential.
power to make a recommendation.
Can we look into make sure that we didn't have some written policy that's in the 5 verses or so? We didn't say so.
Yeah, that explains pretty well.
Any other questions by the board members? Questions from the public? So,
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
That we approve the 2 new members for the oversight committee as presented. Did I get a second?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Emergency medical services fee adjustment discussion.
Yes, it's
Annual update to the EMS fee schedule. So we talked about this last month. It requires first and a second hearing. So this adjustment is usually tied to the CPI and adjusted accordingly, but due to recent passage of Assembly Bill 716, which is essentially a transparency and billing law, it's recommended that the district change its billing matrix. So instead of billing for each individual thing, we're just going to get to some very generic base rates stuff. There's a few additional items that can be billed for, but overall, it's going from a big matrix of, hey, you're going to pay X, Y, Z for each of the drugs that we offer to more of a generalized billing. You can only include necessary and billable items, and we're seeking the board's approval to adopt this new EMS fee schedule, which will go into effect July 1.
Questions from the board?
question. So included in the packet was some background information, including the pertinent or applicable law. And then also an ordinance, I think it was from 20.
Yeah, that was the original ordinance.
Yes.
Puts it in place.
Enact this by an ordinance, or do we need to repeal this ordinance, or?
I think we just continue to adopt the adjusted fee schedule because the ordinance is in place and you're just making amendments to the ordinance.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? A motion to approve the.
I'll motion to approve the EMS fee adjustment.
And I'll second it.
Favor?
Aye.
Business, Southwestern Fire District policy updates.
These are the first reading and discussion of a few of the policies that we discussed during the Brown Act training. We have the committees of the board of directors and the board meeting agenda and board packets, which we discussed during both of those sessions. I also included in there the purchasing and procurement policy. There's been no changes, but it was more to provide you all the information because I know there's some questions that came up along the way. It's in there if you would like to make changes and recommendations, but I believe with the adoption in 23, it kind of brought us up to the current status of what purchasing and procurement is across the state and the requirements. But I'm more than open to take any edits, changes, discussion items that you may have on that one as well. I did not make any changes to it, so it's the policy as it sits today.
Questions or comments from the board on these?
You can. On the, board meeting agenda and board packets, 1211.3.4. The blue line change says open public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. And I think it needs to say public comments with an S.
Okay.
So it doesn't look like the entire public comment period is 3 minutes, but individual comments are
Do we
3
make it
minutes.
comments or comment 3 minutes per person?
Either way.
I think that 3 minutes per person is better defined.
So I'm hearing open public comments with an S will be limited to 3 minutes per person.
Yep.
Okay.
And then on 1211.5.1, there's just a typo.
Under?
The agenda for a special emergency meeting shall be posted in compliance with the law. It says INDOR. It should be INDOR.
That's my tip. I don't know what INDOR is.
Is compliance,
Sorry, the law.
is compliance spelled correctly?
Okay. I'll make those amendments.
I don't think they're playing, so they're creating your hour.
Yeah, I think so too.
And maybe I'll follow up with you separately on this, Chief. On the conflict of interest under purchasing,
Yes.
Form 700 specifies designations for decision-making authority.
Okay.
Which then specifies what level of disclosure somebody has to make. And I don't, maybe that's in another policy. So is it?
It is, it's in our conflict of interest code.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. That's it. I mean,
Okay. So no action on this other than discussion and first reading.
Any other questions or comments? No. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Moving on. LAFCO election process.
So LAFCO, we've had this discussion. They recently appointed a permanent sitting member to the board, and now the alternate special district representation seat is open for the election process. This is the opportunity to elect one of your members that's not here to have representation from hopefully a fire board to sit on LAFCO, even as an alternate. They have the opportunity to sit in, listen, and act when the primary is not there. Is there anybody that would like to be take part as the alternate in the election process?
Didn't we say Gallegos?
Oh, I'll leave that all up to you if you would like to.
I'd like to nominate Director Gallegos.
Yeah, I second that.
Fantastic.
I'll second that.
Third that, because I already got it.
Oh, you already got it, okay.
Dang.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
You know what happens when you miss, right?
That's right. That's right.
Fiscal year 24-25 budget amendments.
Being that we're like 7 days away from the end of the month and the end of the fiscal year, we have a final budget revision. We're bringing it to you really for a lot of transparency so that when we go to do our audit, that we are really capturing what the district has done during the year. Typically, we would bring it to you this late, but we've had some changes that I think are important to capture. The biggest one being, well, one of the primary ones is we're reallocating $25,000 to cover the sidewalk driveway improvement work at Station 18. We're doing that by removing a con vault, fuel vault storage allocation here at Station 17. So there's really not a money issue per se. We've also amended our salaries and our overtime to reflect true spending. Our salaries are down due to vacancies, but our overtime spend is up. Basically, it's a wash. Money just moves from one allocation to the other. And our electric bill is adjusted for. We're just now getting into the rhythm of the true up cycle. And so we made some estimations. They were off a little bit. And so we've amended those up to account for what we're actually spending. With those, I believe that covers the majority of the budget amendments. We're looking for your approval to adopt this final amendment and put it in the books as we get ready for the 24-25 budget.
Oh, sorry.
Any questions from the board? Questions from the public? Make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion for the 24-25 budget amendment as presented.
Got a second on that? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
26 preliminary budget adoption.
So by law, we have to have a draft budget adopted by July 1st of the fiscal year. And that draft then has to be adopted in its final form by September of this coming year. We have put together, we met with the finance committee. And we put together a balanced budget. This assumes a 4.5% revenue increase across the majority of our primary revenues. It includes all existing negotiated contract increases, but not future negotiations. Some big items that the district is being hit with that have really impacted the bottom line. The PERS UAL increase is 67%. That's about a $500 increase over last year. These are things that we can't plan for because the UAL is adjusted up and down based on whatever PERS is doing, and that's kind of a black box. And if you look at our total budget now, PERS costs are roughly 19% of general revenue. So nearly 20% or $1 in $5 is going into PERS costs. We have a number of employees that are retiring that are figuring significant balances. Their leave cash out increases by about 104%. If you look at our goals, you'll see the goal is on the left-hand side and our 2025-26 budget is on the right. That is 85.34% for wages and benefits, 13.9% for service and ops. We have a small bit of money for fixed assets and then really nothing for apparatus, facilities, or major equipment. Leaving us at about 99.85%. We have some mitigation expenditures that live outside of these goals that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but that's essentially what we're bringing to the table. It is, like I said, a balanced budget. I think it's doing a good job with what we have. And I look to you for any questions.
How close would we be on our wages and benefits goal if we weren't being hit with a $500,000 PERS bill and 104% increase in my?
I don't know off the top of my head. My guess is we would probably be somewhere in the 80 to 82% range. I'd have to go run the actual numbers, but that's off the top of my head. We're running about 7 billion-ish in wages and benefits. So you look about 600,000 off of that. So somewhere in the 80% range.
Questions from the board?
Now, circle back around to that. And that UL keeps going up. And so the projection, we're looking at the total number this year is for the UAL is like 1.5, and by not the next fiscal, but the one after that, they're projecting 2.2. And PERS looks forward 2 years, essentially 2 years. So we know what those numbers are kind of coming up, kind of. Like I said, it depends on what the market's doing, what their investment's doing, what their, is it the discount rate? The discount rate, all of those figure into this number, and it can vary widely from year to year, even from projection. So that's where we're at. Sorry to interrupt.
Questions from the board?
So I'm looking up here at the apparatus 25, 26 to 0. But item E, is asking for authorization to purchase.
We can talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay,
But essentially, to answer your question ahead of time, is it's coming out of mitigation money because it's a new piece of equipment to address the expanding services due to increased call volume. So that's why it's not in the baseline budget, but instead coming out of mitigation money.
okay,
What will happen is you'll see that number go up, but there'll be revenue coming out of mitigation to offset that. I didn't want to include it in the adopted budget, assuming that you were going to approve it. So that's where we're at today.
Any questions? Questions from the public? A motion to adopt the preliminary budget.
I hear that we approve the 25-26 preliminary budget adoption as presented. Can I get a second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Fire engine authorization to purchase.
So, again, as we just discussed, fleet, needs to expand to meet our continuing service demands. A current build time for an apparatus from, a manufacturer like Pierce is 4 years. 4 years, I'll say that again. If we were to go out and try and build one of the 3 that we have from the time we start, 4 years complete. We can use a cooperative purchasing program like HVAC, Houston Galveston, something says it. But it's a cooperative purchasing agreement that allows us to go out and buy stuff under our procurement rules without having to go for 3 bids. I know Pierce will do that. This reduces our time of acquisition if we were to buy a stock truck, which essentially means, and Nick can jump in here at any time to help me out as I fumble through this. To keep the line running at Pierce, what they're doing now is they're seeding a few vehicles along the way that they can sell right away to bring revenue in to keep everybody paid. So you've got a bunch of custom trucks coming through the line, that 4-year time frame, but they're not getting paid until they're delivering the trucks. And so it's in order to keep the lights on and the guys paid, men and women paid, they'll sell a couple of these trucks off the line. It could be anything from a tiller truck to a Type 1 engine to a Type 3 to a Type 6. And that money in a quick turnaround is funding the operations. But what that means is instead of a custom truck where we get paid for every aspect of it, we're getting something that they're putting together. The idea being that we'll look at those trucks that are released on the first Monday of every month. And it might be 2 trucks, it might be 10 trucks, it could be a truck and engine, whatever. And what we are asking for is the authority to go and commit to a contract on something that is as close as we can to our spec. Now, it will likely not be 100%. I think we've realized that, but we're going to try and find something close. But what would need to happen is on Monday, we'll get a list of all the trucks. And if there's something that is close, we need to be able to enter into at least initial contract to have that discussion and hold that truck. If we don't have that authority, Monday's the 2nd of the month, and then I have to wait 2 weeks to come here and say, hey, we really like this truck. Well, that could be gone, right? And so then we have to wait another month and go through this process of what matches or what meets our needs based on the initial release on a Monday, the first of the month, could impact our ability to get it. Now, if we decide that we find something that's close, set 80, 90%, 95%, and we agree to this, they can have that truck delivered to us. I think this last round, the earliest one I saw was in September or October.
yes, sir.
So we're talking June, we could have it in 3 months, which is a significant time decrease from obviously 4 years. So what we're coming to you to ask, and Nick's the head of our apparatus committee, and if you've got anything you'd like to say or add, or I just spoke to it anyway.
No, sir, you're 100% right on. I'd be happy to answer any questions within my ability.
And we would all like a custom truck that matches everything else, but we also realize that where we're at with our fleet and the increasing demand that's coming from it doesn't allow us to go out and wait the 4 years to build a truck. So this, I think, is the next best option. And I'm gonna let Nick speak for himself if he agrees or disagrees, but we think this is a great opportunity to get something close that will serve the community's needs in a time-friendly and economical way.
Absolutely.
As long as it's not green or yellow, you know,
Yes, sir.
hopefully red with a black top on it.
So
Absolutely.
if those vehicles become available, does it go out? And if more than one agency wants that particular truck, is there a bidding process or is there a flat price?
First come, first served.
It's first come, first served.
Yep, and it's based on the price that they put on it. So you may have something that's close to $925,000, and the first one to commit to it is the first one that gets.
So it doesn't involve an increased cost?
No.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so, yeah, good evening, guys. My name is Nick Baskey. I'm the captain here at 17A. Been off a little bit for an injury. Head of your apparatus committee. Took it over from Chief Mentling that just walked out the door. He's a little bit my mentor. But yeah, a little bit of clarification on this. So the American Fire Service knows that there's desperate need of fire engines, and because of lead times and price of steel, everything's gone up, right, since COVID. Pierce recognized that, and they put aside this program, an option or a stock option truck list. And what that does is on the first Monday of every month, Pierce gives a list of apparatus that are available that have job numbers attached to them, which are in the queue ready to rock and roll. And there are some modifications that could be made to those apparatus. And so our goal as a committee and as your apparatus committee is to obviously get apparatus that are as uniform as possible to the rest of the fleet for obvious reasons, right? So with the authorization to purchase doesn't mean we have to pull the trigger right now, but it allows the apparatus committee on a month-by-month basis to look at what comes out to be able to get a piece of equipment and make some modifications so that it's the same as engine 17, engine 16, engine 18 with the goal, because right now engine 20 is the one that's not the same. As you know, as firefighters, I think we can all agree our number one priority is the firefighters, but number two is the piece of equipment and the apparatus to get us to the emergency. So if we can have equipment that is very similar, I think it just makes for a streamlined process, safety, and delivery to the customer, so that this compartment has this compartment has this, the pump does this, so we can have a uniform equipment throughout the district. So that, I think that's what we're asking for, is that ability to trust your apparatus committee to look at what's being available each month, so that we can tweak and figure out within our parameters what's acceptable and not, so that we can have uniform apparatus throughout the district, which I think is an ultimate goal, and these guys appreciate, and we all appreciate, and everything looks the same.
And it may not be something we buy in July or August or September. It may be February before we find something that meets our spec. And so we're just looking for a authorization to go enter into that contract. We'll bring it back to the board once we identify that for final approval. We'll make sure we put that in the contract. But that's essentially what we're looking for, is the ability to act when something comes up that fits our district.
I agree with the idea, and I only bought Pierce engines myself, but I would like to know, just for my own information, what size tank, what kind of engine, and the hose it will carry, just those basic things.
Yeah, absolutely. If anything, we're In 2018, when we bought our first Pierce Type 1 engine, it was for originally Station 18. And we kind of copycatted and made modifications off the Sac City spec. And then in 2022, we bought 2 additional Pierce Type 1s and made some modifications to them. The pump size is still the same. What we always want is more water. And then obviously with this idea right now going forward that it's going to serve Station 20's area, water capacity is a huge issue. So the pump size of 1500 GPM single stage pump is still the standard. But if we can get 650 or 700 gallons of water on board on that engine at 20s, that's going to be ideal. The compartmentation, the configuration of the engine, the way it stands, the motor, transmission, the pump being a waterless, all that, if we can keep it similar so that our line personnel have, consistency as well as the shop, I think it's a win. But understanding that Station 20's area versus Station 15's area are very different. The water capacity of that engine in 20s would definitely be a priority. So we'd increase that tank capacity if possible. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, the other one's 500s.
Engine 16 is 500 and engine 17 and engine 18, 600. It might be 650. I should know this. I apologize, but they're more than 500.
I think they're 650.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are they turning out? Basically, these are the like 3 or 4 specs that they have for their Type 1s that they're throwing in on these things. So we just need to look for when the close, spec 3 is the one that's close enough. So we're just looking for spec 3 to come up. Or are they ever changing specs on those Type 1s that they're throwing out there?
Yes, sir. So not to get too much in the weeds, but they do change month to month. Like I said, the American Fire Service realizes there is a problem with apparatus and getting them out with supply issues. Pierce recognized this and they started this stock program. They took all these pieces of all these departments and apparatus and okay, here's like the cookie cutter. And they give it a job number. The job number puts it in the queue, so it's going forward. So we don't have that 48-month lead time. There are things we can change on that, but the things, not to get too much in the weeds, but like the cab, right? We want a cab that's similar or the same as our current cabs, Enforcers. We want a body, a pump house, a pump, tank size, wheelbase. So there's no set number, but on the first Monday of every month, Pierce throws out a stock options list. And there's no determinate amount of number of apparatus. It could be 3. A few months ago, it was 11 pieces of equipment that boom, here, these apparatus have assigned job numbers are in the queue to be built, which decreases that lead time of ready for pickup. And depending how far along they are in the queue, we have the ability to make changes that accompany our needs. So it could be 3. I think a few months ago, there were 11, but they are a first come serve basis.
And I think to answer a little bit more of your question, is the West Coast and the East Coast and the Midwest are a little different.
Yeah.
And so I think
That's what I was wondering. Do they have one that we're looking at going, okay, well, this is one of their spec builds.
yes.
So we're looking for this stock build.
Yep.
That's gonna come up. And they've done some of these ones in the past. And we think this one's
We have very generic as far as the cab, the pump house, and the hose capacity in bed. And then we fine tune it with the wheelbase, the suspension, the motor, the transmission, the pump. There's things that we have in the past that are no longer available because of standards. But between the apparatus committee and the shop and the admin, we're all looking to obviously try to get a uniform apparatus fleet for obvious reasons.
Can I ask one question? So I know that they got rid of the Detroit diesel,
Yes, sir.
so they're using the Cummins motor, right?
X15,
What size, what horsepower? is it?
basically the same, but it is a Cummins and not a Detroit.
So it's like a, what, 425?
500, it's above 500. It's like 525. They pin it to 500 horsepower and then 1,850 pounds of torque, which are the same as all our other Type 1s.
I just asked.
Yep.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah.
I'm curious about the apparatus committee, who's on it, what their titles are, and if there, any of the others are here, if they can be introduced.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So I said earlier, Chief Mittling's the OG of the apparatus committee. I'm sorry. He kind of handed it down to me. He does oversight and just guides me and has mentored me. Chief Bauthier is also captain.
I just got promoted.
Son chief.
You better tell your brother that. Yeah.
And engineer Cooney, who's not here today. So
Thank you.
looking for more, add another firefighter or engineer in the near future.
Great.
Yeah.
It's great to have that expertise and input. You guys are the ones that got to operate it, so glad to know that you're involved.
Either questions or comments from the board?
Just one, I'd like to encourage that we try to get a 750 gallon tank.
Yeah, we met as a committee and we kind of put a list together of needs and wants. Like a wish list together. So I don't have that wish list, but that was one of the things was the tank size. So as these apparatus come out, you know, we have our lists of stuff that we absolutely have to have and stuff that we would like to have. So just kind of have to wait and see what comes out.
So every Monday morning, the first Monday of the month, we'll all be anxiously checking our emails to see what we need to swoop in on. But what I did hear, and again, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, I think our rep from Pierce, Brad, was saying that the majority of them are coming with 700 gallons at least, because that's what they're seeing across the nation, what the preference is.
Yeah, again, like they do a very broad paintbrush, and obviously the East Coast and volunteer departments with the minimal water supply, they're looking for the higher capacity tanks. So that is, I saw that on the list, that the 750 gallon tanks are becoming more popular on their stock option list. However, there's also obviously drawbacks to that because you can't have your cake and eat it too. That determines the tank shape, whether it's L tank or a T tank, and what your hose bed looks like. So, I mean, that's getting into it, but yeah, water is definitely on our list, sir. Absolutely.
Your comments from the public?
I think it sounds like a great idea. Is there much of a savings doing it this way from a regular truck?
That's going to be a good question. From the couple of months I've looked versus what our traditional spec would be, I think we probably will see a little bit of more efficiency because they're able to build the same thing over and over and over again. So we might experience the problem is we bought these two rigs 2022, we paid $685,000 a piece. One of those rigs today costs 1.4 million. So we've asked for authority to 1.2. My hunch is that we'll probably be between 9 and 1.1. And so I would
modifications on it on that probably.
right. And so what I think is probably like paint is going to be probably the toughest thing because they all seem to be coming red.
It depends on how far along
It
that
is.
job number is.
Yeah,
So if it's early enough, we have the ability to match our current paint scheme, no problem. But if that job number is further along in that cab, is once they build the cab and weld it, the first thing that gets done is paint. And they do a basic red paint.
yeah. And so we may, one of those change orders may be, hey, send it back to the paint shop and paint the top, which adds change order costs. So it's not cheaper than what we got. In the scheme of things, we should get a fairly decent deal.
I agree that we authorize the fire engine apparatus purchase. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Just make sure it's got a lot of lights on it.
Final approval for the continued benefit assessment within the Loomis Emergency Response Service Assessment District.
All right, hold on to your hats. We got a bunch of things right in a row here that we're gonna work through. Number one, public
Sorry,
hearing.
this is opening a public hearing.
What, let me get through my thing and then you can open it. Public hearing, final approval. We heard this last month as its first reading. Now it's the public hearing for the actual approval, 2.37% CPI, increased by 642, resulting in $1.267 million this year. The oversight committee passed the recommendation. You're on.
Open our public hearing. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? This is for approval tonight, correct?
Yeah, close public hearing.
Close the public hearing. Motion to approve the continued benefit assessment.
I approve,
Adopt the resolution.
I adopt the resolution for the benefit assessment for Loomis. Can I get a second?
Roll call.
Me.
Director Randall.
Aye.
Director Musso.
Aye.
Director Gibson.
Aye.
Director Windus-Nelson. Aye. And Director Flanagan.
Aye.
That passes.
Authorization providing for levy and collection of special tax measure A for the fiscal year 25-26.
This is not a public hearing. Two actions, levy the special tax measure and collection of the special tax measure. Passed in 1980 at $70 per resident, 5 cents a square foot commercial, $2 an acre vacant, no COLA. 24-25 collection will be approximately $721,200. We just need an adoption of the resolution to approve.
Questions or comments from the board on the resolution? Questions from the public? Motion for the approval of the resolution. So moved.
I second it.
Here, Rachel.
Randall, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Musso.
Aye.
Director Gibson.
Aye.
Director Windus-Nelson.
Aye.
Director Flanagan.
Aye.
And the House passes. Aye.
Adoption of cost of living adjustment for partial fees in Loomis.
So this is the special tax in Loomis. This is a public hearing to approve the resolution to adopt cost of living adjustments for the parcel fee. Approved in 1997 with a COLA based on CPI in San Francisco Bay Area. CPI this year was 1.27% for an annual increase of $1.71 to $136.17 per single family equivalent. It generates approximately $600,000. This again is a public hearing, so
Public hearing. Any comments from the board? Comments from the public? I will close the public hearing. Motion to adopt the cost of living adjustment for the partial fees.
I motion to adopt the cost of living adjustment for 2 partial fees in Loomis.
I second it.
Your roll call.
Randall, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Musso.
Aye.
Director Gibson.
Aye.
Director Windus-Nelson.
Aye.
Director Flanagan.
Aye.
That passes. Aye.
Adoption of the cost of living adjustments for special zones and benefit.
So this is a public hearing to approve a resolution to adopt the cost of living adjustment for special zones of benefit. This is in the Loomis territory. It's an annual adjustment approved by the property owners tied to CPI change for all urban consumers, US city average. This too was 1.27%. Zones of benefit include the Raleigh Shopping Center, the Costco. There's a list of them in your packets. Nazarene Office Center, Taylor Circle, Penrith Plaza, Twin Star offices. So this is specific to those properties, and this is a public hearing.
From the hearing, comments from the board? From the public? Those in the hearing? Motion.
On motion to adopt the cost of living adjustment for special zone benefits.
Second.
Second.
Director Randall, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Musso.
Aye.
Director Gibson.
Aye.
Director Winson.
Aye.
Director Flanagan.
Aye.
Somebody else knows that the stuff goes by a lot faster when Pete's not here. It's going so much faster with Pete.
Right,
Might be a back stuff if Pete's not here.
Might get done before.
Request for Placer County collection of special assessment.
So this is a resolution to request that Placer County collect all of those things that we just talked about. Special assessments within the district boundaries are included in property tax bills of the condition. You must warrant the legality of the charges through the resolution. So we need board action to approve this.
Questions from the board? Comments from the public? No public comment, motion to approve the request for special assessment.
I motion to request Placer County collection of special assessment resolution 26-2425.
I'll second.
Director Randall, how do you vote?
Aye.
Director Musso.
Aye.
Director Gibson.
Aye.
Director Winhausen.
Aye.
Director Flanagan.
Aye.
Discussion. All right, let's get this thing to work. All right, call volume by month, 322 runs in May, a little less than what we did last year at 336. If we look at 3 years, we're going right in the ballpark. I think right now we're running about 5% more than we were last year overall. It's hit by apparatus resource, you can see medic 16. Region 17, medic 19 are there at the top of the list. Station 18 basically is 17, 15, 16, 19, 20. And as always, those are for the areas, not the apparatus. Here's our responses by district. Our ambulance response times and the report on how 19 versus 20 will be in July in just 2 or 3 weeks. I'll have that to you all as a comparison. We had 14 fires, 8 vegetation fires, 2 that were from escape burn piles, 1 structure fire, 1 shed fire, and 4 mutual aid calls. Pretty well spread out throughout the district. Our call response turnout time continues its downward trend. Travel time is still traveling upwards, but overall we have a slight increase of our total response time. I think it's trending ever so slightly up from like 903 to 906. There's our unit hour utilization. The ambulances are in the double-digit percentages. As you can see, medic 19 is at 12%. Which is an increase over what 20 used to be, but again, that's coming. Engines are in the 2 to 4% range. Here's a graph of historically what's going on. Our ambulance response time per SSV was 99% of the time we hit our metric, which is fantastic. Fire prevention.
I'd just give you guys a quick update on the fire prevention side of the district. Things are still kind of trending about average for this time of year. It's been so far above average for the last 5 years that this actually seems a little bit slow, but it's about average for right now. Got a total of 3 new residential starts on that side and 5 new commercial starts. About a little over 20,000 square feet of remodels, so that continues to trend kind of high. 32 sets of plans. I think that's the lowest amount we've received for the year so far. It's kind of interesting. Not sure if that's maybe being affected by all the tariff stuff that went on, at the beginning of the month, but a little bit low on that side. But inspections hold an average about 51 that Katrina and I did with only 1 reinspection. So that's going well on that side of things. Couple things to add. We've got Nugget, it should be a facility, but that's okay. Nugget Market is projected to open on July the 14th. So they've been going hot and heavy over there, converting that Walmart, neighborhood Walmart over to a Nugget. I can tell you, been inside of there, it is quite a bit fancier than the Walmart was, as expected. It's going to be very nice. They're doing a good job over there. So projected opening of July 14th. They're definitely on a fast track to get that done. We'll be working with them to do whatever it takes to get that place open and safe. I'll be working on over the next couple of months. We had our kickoff meeting with Placer County on a local hazard mitigation plan. So that's something that goes countywide every 5 years. We participate as a fire district, and what that allows us to do is, as long as we're in, as part of that local hazard mitigation plan for the county, if we ever were to have a major catastrophe here, that allows us to get FEMA funding. So it's very important that we participate in that. We do along with the other districts. And so that's, it'll take a couple months to go through that process, but by the first of the year, they'll produce that plan and we'll be a part of it. So I'm working on that as we speak. And then new fire codes come out in July, which is always an exciting time of year for me. A whole new set of codes I got to learn. But I will be going through those over the next 6 months and adjusting our ordinance accordingly, maybe making some changes to our ordinance, adding a few things, and just making sure that everything matches up from the old code to the new code. Right now on the weed abatement side, we've had a total of 15 complaints for the year. And we have 10 of those resolved. So 5 are still open and I'm active that I'm working on with people, but a total of 15. We average between 20 and 25 typically for an entire summer. So being at 15 here at the 3rd week of July is very substantial. People are a little bit concerned. It's good to see on some aspects, and I'm definitely getting a really good response from the individuals we've contacted and asked them to clear their property, which is good, better than usual. I think that has a lot to do with people are kind of finally waking up to the idea that they maybe need to take some personal responsibility and make sure that things are safe around that property. Facilities wise, nothing too exciting over there. We've got some irrigation work being done at Station 19 and Station 15. Both of those just being closed for so long. There were some issues with the lawn sprinkler systems that'll be coming back online. So we've got some people doing some work over there. We just did new mattresses over at Station 19. So for the guys over there, the county chief and the 2 individuals over there, they got new mattresses that were well needed, right, Brian?
Yeah.
Yes. So hopefully, I think Brian, hopefully you'll be a lot more rested tomorrow. And then ordered a new set of recliners for Station 17 that'll come at the end of the week. Station 17 was our last station to not be in compliance with the non-porous surface that is required, and what we like to see to make sure that our guys aren't putting any contaminants into the chair that then could cause them problems later on down the road. So we've got leather recliners coming to Station 17 to replace the cloth recliners that are there now. And then lastly, on the investigation side, we had a arson task force call out. I brought the trailer up to Auburn to assist with an apartment fire that occurred up there. Myself, 2 investigators from Rockland Fire, 1 from Nevada County Consolidated, 1 from Higgins, assisted Auburn City's fire investigator with that investigation. It turned out to be an accidental fire, but it did displace 4 people from that apartment complex up there. So good utilization of the trailer, and then great utilization of the team. We've got a good group of guys that have done a lot of fires together now, so we all work together really well and goes quickly. And then we had internally, we had a structure fire Captain Stevens performed the investigation on that fire, which was determined to be accidental. It's a garage fire. And, but that was our only internal activation of our team for fire there in our jurisdiction. So that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Do you, or can you kind of do a thumbnail, outline on how, a weed abatement complaint works from start to finish?
So the complaint comes in through our website. It's sort of funneled down from the county. Sometimes the county will get complaints as well. Funnels down to us. The first thing that I do is go out and investigate the complaint to make sure that it's valid and enforceable from our side. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. We base our enforcement on the Placer County Hazardous Vegetation Abatement Ordinance, which basically centers around 100-foot defensible space. With over 5,000 parcels in our jurisdiction, if I were to require abatement on every single parcel, that's all I would do, and I would get to them each year. There's just too many. So we focus on using the abatement ordinance as our guideline. We use those parameters, and if it meets those, then we do enforcement. Doesn't, we just politely let people know that it doesn't meet the criteria. That's the end of it. If it does require enforcement, we give them a 30-day notice, give them an actual notice to abate the hazard. That's followed up with a 14-day notice if they don't comply. At that point, then we have the option of charging them reinspection fees, keep going out there on a weekly basis and charging fees, or we can simply turn it over to the county through our MOU that we have with them. It'll go to their code enforcement, and then the county has a little bit sharper teeth than us as far as they can abate the property and charge the owner for the abatement fees, or they can put a lien on the property. So they have some avenues to apply pressure that we don't have. And so basically I would say the last several years, probably, I don't think I've said anything to the county for the last 3 summers. 2 before that I did. This year so far, I haven't had something up there. So typically we handle things internally. People are pretty compliant based on the letters that.
So if somebody doesn't file on the website of South Placer Fire and they complain through the county, do they complain to code enforcement and the code enforcement sends it to you? So that's great. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Yes,
One comment on that. It'll be interesting to see if Nugget can open by the 14th. They have, a friend of mine does the hiring there. They have 105 positions to be filled.
But the store might be a Nugget market. No, wait.
that's a lot of hiring to do, which we'll talk about here in a second. Large overtime, 50% is due to open spots. We're down quite a few positions. We do have 4 people starting on July 14th through a 4-week academy. We're currently posting for apprentice and firefighter.
Apprentice firefighter will be out later this week.
And we have a battalion chief's test coming down the pipe. And we're anticipating doing a captain and an engineer's test later this year. Looking to fill those spots. Mandatory voluntary is almost equal at 50-50 at this point in time. Here's the trends. You see the spike in the mandatory in the last month. Yes, sir.
On those positions coming open,
Yes.
is that because of expiration or need?
We have some retirements and we have some people that have left. And we're anticipating some promotions along with that, so we're going to try and establish lists to fill all positions as quickly as we can.
How long do the lists last?
2 years?
Typically, it's a year with the option of the fire chief to extend it 1 additional year. A lot of times what happens is based on the number of people that are on the list, will exhaust or expire the list early, because sometimes you're getting down into the lower numbers of candidates, or a period of time will go by and the candidates that are on the list are no longer interested. Now, obviously, that's not the case for internal candidates, but anytime we test outside, we're competing with everybody else out there. and they say, sorry, we've already accepted a job offer. And so the list might not even make it.
I received total overtime dollars. Year over year leave usage, vacation, sick leave are about the same, and the total overtime's up a little bit over last year. Committee and monthly reports, I believe, Director Musso, you have an update?
Can I put that off until next meeting?
Absolutely, you can. Any other committee or monthly reports? PARS report, sorry, that's me. We have a PARS report. 1.676, earnings of $1,600. I think that was for April. Chief's report. The entire Chief's report is contained in the packet, but I'm just going to cover a couple of key items. There's a lot of stuff in there that talks about public outreach. Please read over that. I'll talk about Kids Camp where we partnered with Roseville Fire, hosted Kid Camp every summer. This year they had their most turnout ever, 100 students. We have a couple of dedicated members, Captain Tracy Kinchlow and Kevin Cooney, that go over there and help out. They're an integral part of it. Roseville is very appreciative, and they actually state that they couldn't really do it without our guys. So that huge kudos to them. They spent a lot of time investing in that. It's a great camp for the kids. Teach them everything they need to know about being a firefighter. They actually get to fight some fire, climb some ladders. They learn water safety. They learn some emergency medical stuff. So it's a fantastic event. Those two gentlemen plus Captain Donnie Gray were out there this year helping out. So kudos to those guys. They did a great job. We had a house fire that Chief Angolia alluded to earlier, early morning. Fire in the garage, quick action of Captain Stevens and Captain Klein and their crews. Extinguished the fire, kept it to the garage, did a phenomenal job. There was the homeowner's grandchildren were sleeping in the bedroom right above the garage. So through their quick actions and professionalism and dedication, really got there quick, put the fire out right away, did a fantastic job. We had a field save, Captain Gray, Captain O'Leary, and Engineer Bromley working on a patient who basically coded or their heart stopped beating while they were with them, brought him back to life. By the time they got to the hospital, the patient was following commands of talking. Patient spent a few days in the ICU and is expected to make full recovery. So it's that kind of professionalism. Captain O'Leary, I believe, is here. Raise your hand. Through their professionalism, dedication, and commitment to the service, it's outcomes like that that are fantastic. So kudos to those guys. We're gonna do something for them here in the near future. We'll let you all know. And again, I talked already about public outreach. So thank you all for everything you're doing. Keep up the great work. Functions, we have an open house here this Saturday at Station 17, 11 to 1. We have coffee connection with the Loomis Chamber, where the local members of the community meet for coffee to talk about. You're all welcome to attend. It's a neat event. And then on July 4th, I think every engine company has at least one, if not two parades. They'll be out, they'll be busy, and that's ahead of what is typically obviously a busy day. Even though fireworks are illegal, all fireworks, safe and sane even, are included. Sandy, I'm looking at
I
you.
thought so.
She just nodded her head like, yeah, whatever.
Even though we're legal, we still get quite a few events that go on. So the guys will have a busy day. So look forward to that being behind us. Hopefully everything is safe and good turnout.
Where's the coffee connection?
It's at the Trade Depot, 8 o'clock.
8 a.m.?
8 a.m.
Staff performance. Future agenda items. That we will. During the stage. Thank you everybody for coming.
7 o'clock? Wow.